So far, the shared library items we've set up have been using a method known as design time sharing. Whenever we use the phrase design time, we're referring to changes or updates that are made only in the original or FLA files. Now, while this is useful under certain circumstances, we may decide at some point that we actually want our files to be able to update their content from a source file long after they've been published. For this, we're going to explore the concept of runtime sharing. To get started, you want to make sure that your car sale 720x90.fla file is open, your car sale 300x250.fla file is open, and we're also going to open a brand new file called carassets.fla. You'll find this in this chapter's folder along with your other lesson files. Let's go ahead and take a look at the car assets file by bringing it forward. We'll see this file contains two movie clips on the stage. The top one is a blue version of the car. The bottom one is a red version of the car that we're trying to sell. At some point, we may decide that we want our banners to actually use either of these car images, but we want them to update at runtime. Runtime refers to your movie in its environment in the Flash player. In other words, once it's been opened and it's playing back. So this is long after it's been published. The cool thing about runtime sharing is every time a Flash movie is updated, we could have it update any shared symbols simply by looking to an already published SWF file. This means if anything changes in the source file, we don't need to republish our files over and over again. We simply just need to make sure the banner knows exactly where the source file is every time it's opened up and that that source file is available in the same folder or on the web server. Before we get started, we have to set up our symbols for runtime sharing. We do this in the actual source document. Go ahead and select the red car at the bottom of the stage. Bring your library panel forward on the right, and go ahead and locate the car accent red movie clip symbol. That's actually the item that we have selected on the stage. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on the selected symbol, and we're going to select Properties to open up the symbol properties. Now, the Symbol Properties dialog box should still be showing advanced options from the previous lessons. However, if not, make sure that you click the Advanced button in the lower right-hand corner. That would appear where this Basic button is now. We want to make sure that we see all of these options at the bottom, specifically the sharing options that we see here in the middle. Under sharing options, we have two choices. We can either export a symbol for runtime sharing or import it. In this particular case, since we're actually working in the source file, we wanted to take this specific symbol and package it into the published SWF and make it available to other Flash movies that have already been published for real-time or runtime sharing. In this case, I want to share this red car symbol, and I'm going to click the Export for Runtime Sharing checkbox. Now, once you do that, you'll see a bunch of things wake up in the linkage options above. We see the Export for ActionScript and Export in Frame 1 checkboxes checked off. This simply makes sure that the symbol is available in the final SWF file and is set up for sharing. You'll also notice two fields wake up labeled Class and Base Class. Don't worry so much about what these actually do. The most important thing to remember is that the name that we see in the class field, in this particular case, car accent red, is the ID by which our destination files is going to look for this particular symbol. So it's actually important to remember what name we see in this class field. It's going to enable our other files to look for and find this shared symbol later on. Last but not least, directly below the Export for Runtime Sharing checkbox, we see a URL field opens up. This actually wants us to specify the URL of the published SWF that's going to come from this source file. So when we publish our car assets file, it wants to know where to tell any movies that depend on this file to look for it. That's because this SWF file is going to need to be on the server with all of the other Flash movies that rely on it. So in this case, we're simply going to type in the name of the file without any directory or anything else because at this particular point, it sits in the exact same directory. So we're simply going to type carassets.swf. So we're just re-specifying the URL back to this file later on, or back to the published version of this file. When you're done, go ahead and click OK. If you see a dialog box that appears warning you that a definition for this class could not be found, go ahead and just click OK to bypass this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and save our file by going to File, Save. And now, since we're dealing with runtime sharing, the FLA files don't really matter as much at this point. Runtime sharing relies strictly on published SWF files. That means our source file needs to be a published file, or an SWF, as well as the dependent movies, in this case the published versions of our banners. So what we need to do is actually publish our car assets file so there's an SWF version available in the folder. Let's go to File, and for now we don't want to publish any additional files. We simply just need the finished SWF file, so we're going to go to Export, and we're going to choose Export Movie. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish an SWF or export an SWF into the same folder as the rest of our files, which is this chapter's folder, and click Save.